Well, the Supreme Court sides with an important tenet of President Trump's immigration crackdown. In a 6-3 decision, the High Court removed a lower court's injunction that had blocked the administration from deporting migrants to countries that they have no connection to. White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller celebrating the win on Hannity last night. Watch.
This is an incredible victory, the Supreme Court win. It allows President Trump, as the law has long said, but the courts have blocked, it allows President Trump to send illegal aliens convicted of rape, murder, homicide, assault, battery, crimes against children to any country around the world that is willing to accept them.
And DHS spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin is telling Fox News this, quote, "If these activist judges had their way, aliens who are so uniquely barbaric that their own countries won't take them back, including convicted murderers, child rapists, and drug traffickers, would walk free on American streets." She continued this, quote, "Fire up the deportation planes." Now, look, Paul, not to make light of this, but indeed, the reality is that there was sort of a heightened advocacy for many people that overwhelmingly, over 80% of the Americans actually voted in favor for and polled in favor of removing from this country. Now, this removes red tape. It allows us to resume the expedited deportations, but it doesn't actually solve the legality of the merits. But that could take years to wind its way through the court. So break this down for us.
And it likely will. So look, the basis of our amnesty laws are not for us to make all of these decisions. The basis for our amnesty laws is to protect them from their home country, if in fact they qualify. We're not travel agents, okay? So if we have people who are going to be willing to take them and they don't have to go back to their home country because that's the basis of the amnesty law, then okay, it should be constitutional. But here's the thing I want to point out. Look at the Kilmar-Abrego situation. All right. What everybody forgets is the original sin, in my estimation, of that case. He's here. He makes a case to an immigration judge that he cannot go back to El Salvador because of some beef relative to MS-13, and subsequently it developed that he's likely MS-13. Think about how you're supposed to make that adjudication as the immigration judge here. You're sitting here, right, in an American court, and you're trying to adjudicate a gang beef going on in El Salvador.
That he alleges. There's no way to even confirm that.
How can you investigate that precisely? So as a result, you put these immigration judges in a position where they're trying to ascertain stuff they can't possibly adjudicate. And that's the real flaw here. And that's what this comparatively, not entirely, but comparatively fixes.
And Harris, I wanted to dig into this point with you, which is that much was made by the left and the media when that lower court issued this ruling, right? Yes, they deserve due process, even though it wasn't quite due process. They deserve that meaningful notice. They had the 30-day hearing. But at the end of the day, SCOTUS ruled yet again on President Trump's side. And I'm sure we'll hear crickets from the left. But at the end of the day, President Trump's policies have been proven time and time again that they are indeed constitutional and legal.
I wish we could hear crickets from the left. What we're going to hear is more of the same, which is lawfare, 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 even when they're losing. Their game is to slow down this president, and our game as citizens is to speed him up so he can work out his vision that people voted for last November and to keep us all in a place where we are whole and safe. We can't afford 11 million plus more illegals in this country flowing over. He has stopped that flow at the border, and now we need to vet something that we were not able to do because we were outnumbered at the border, and judges were outnumbered. Now we need to get these people in. Those who get to stay, stay. Those who have to go, go. You can do the CBP Home app and get in line and come back the right way. But they want to slow, the left wants to slow this president down. So I said it going into the commercial break. This should be at a faster clip, and you've heard both the DHS secretary and the president of the United States, 3,000 a day would be what they'd like to see. Bring it on.
Right. And Sandra, you juxtapose this again. The highest court in the land siding with the president, the administration, and yet there's still ads being run by Democrats, essentially like making it sound like people are going to get ripped away from their homes that are legal citizens.
You say that Democrats are trying to slow down the efforts of the president. They're trying to slow down the will of the American people. I mean, you think about crime and immigration were the two top issues in this past presidential election. And this is what the American voters, they wanted. And to quote the DHS spokesperson, Tricia McLaughlin, you probably had her on our show as well. We have her often on America Report. She speaks so eloquently on the department's efforts here with these illegal, criminal migrants. She said, fire up the deportation planes, right? And to go back to Stephen Miller's point, this allows them to send out convicted murderers, those convicted of homicide, rape, horrific crimes against children. McLaughlin went on to say the high court's action is, quote, a victory for the safety and the security of the American people, which goes back to those two election issues. And you would be hard-pressed to find Americans who are not in support of this.
That's right.
The final note I'll make is from the Liberals' perspective. The justice that wrote about this, Justice Sonia Sotomayor for the Liberals, wrote that the government has made clear in word and deed that it feels itself unconstrained by law, free to deport anyone, anywhere, without notice or opportunity to be heard. But the Solicitor General that took this forward to the Supreme Court said the United States is facing a crisis of illegal immigration, in no small part because many aliens most deserving of removal are often the hardest to remove, which is why this very practice is being undertaken by the president to reach out to these third parties, third countries, to get rid of criminals. Specifically speaking about a group of men who was on a plane that went to Africa, violent criminals convicted of murder, sexual assault, kidnapping, robbery. These are the individuals that they're focused on.
Which is why I think that dissent is disingenuous, you know, at a minimum, right? Because the whole point is it doesn't apply to this particular group. Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.